Okay, just looking at some revision questions for decimals and fractions, understanding decimals and fractions, non-calculator. So what fraction of the rectangle is shaded? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 are shaded out of a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of 10. But you should simplify the fraction. So 4 and 10 are both even and they can both be divided by 2. So 4 divided by 2 is 2 and 10 divided by 2 is 5. So 2/5. Okay, the next question. Bella had 12 lollies and she ate a quarter of them. So how do we find a quarter? It's the same as dividing by 4, or you could just break this up into 4 equal groups. So how many did she eat? You would divide by 4 to find a quarter. So she ate 3, and how many are left? Yeah, 12 minus 3 is 9. So girls, these would be like level 1s, sort of, okay? Write the following as a decimal. We've got 5 whole numbers, and then we have 3 in the tenths column. You know, the first digit after the decimal point is the tenths. Then we've got 5 in the hundredths column, and then we've got 8 in the thousandths column, thousandths. Remember, it goes whole numbers before the decimal point. Your whole numbers are before the decimal point, and your fractional parts are after the decimal point. So with a decimal, you've got the whole number part in front of the decimal point, and then the fractional parts, and it goes tenths, hundredths, thousandths. Okay, place value, sorry, the value of the digit 7. They're actually asking for the value. Look, okay, the value of the digit 7, we can see that the 7 is before the decimal point, and if we read the number, it's 374, so it's in the tens column, so it really is 7 tens, so you could say 70, it would be worth 70, all right? So it's in the tens column, that's the place value is in the tens column, but its value is 70, okay? Now the 7 in this one, we've got the whole number part, then we've got tenths, hundredths. So the second one is in the hundredths column. So its value is 7 hundredths, or, yeah, we'll just write it as 7 hundredths. But its value is 7 hundredths, or 0.07, but we'll go 7 hundredths. So you can write 7 hundredths or 7 over 100. Okay, but it's in the hundredths column because we've got tenths, hundredths, thousandths. So we've got 7 hundredths. Okay, now these are equivalent fractions. Often you might just see 2 at a time, not 3 at a time. So what you would do here, I would just cover this last bit here. And if you see it like that, you probably find that less. How do we go from 2 to 4? With multiplying. So this is asking you about equivalent fractions, equal fractions. This fraction equals that fraction. So we multiply by 4. So I'm just pretending the rest isn't there. So I go times 4. How did I get from 2 to 4? Because I'll have a complete set. So on the denominator, I also times 4 and I get 12. Are we okay with that? So you cover this. Now we're going to go from 8 twelfths, 8 over 12 to 6. How do I go from the 12 to the 6? Divided by 2. So I'm going to divide. So you find the pair that you've got. I had to divide this one by 2. So I divide by 2 there and I get 4/6. Okay. Diagram does not have 3/4 shaded. Not. It looks like there's 3 shaded out of 4. This one looks okay. What about the second one? There's 4 sections. 3 of them are shaded. What about this one? Well, you've got to look. No, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 are shaded out of 8. That simplifies to 3/4. I can see 3 shaded, girls. I know it's not very dark, but 6 are definitely shaded. So that's shaded. Those 3, these 6 are shaded. 6 out of 8. How do I simplify 6 over 8? They're both divisible by 2. What do you get? 3/4. So this one's okay. Let's look at D. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 shaded out of 12. There's 12 altogether. What can they both be divided by? 3, because they're both in the 3 times tables. That's 3/4. Looks like that one's okay. Had to be the last one. So let's have a look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 shaded out of 16. Now that one does not simplify to 3/4. If we did want the last one to simplify to 3/4, how many should have been shaded? Yeah, 12. If 12 of them were shaded, I would have been able to divide both those numbers by 4, and I would have got 3/4. So this one can't be simplified, so the answer here is E. Now, we're changing 2 3/4 to an improper fraction. I can do it with drawing if I wanted, or the quick method. I've got 2 wholes and 3/4. So my 2 wholes would be broken up into quarters. How do we know what they're all being broken up into? You look at the denominator of the fraction part, and it's quarters. So I've got 2 wholes broken up into quarters, and I've got 3/4. So I'll just show you this visually. If you want this as an improper fraction, how many quarters do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I've got 11/4. Now, that's okay to do it for a small number like this, but when the numbers get a lot bigger, the trick is that the 2 wholes are broken up into quarters. So we do, each whole is 4 pieces. So 2 times 4, do you get it? This 2 wholes, each whole is 4 pieces. So I've got 4 pieces there and 4 pieces there. So I do, the 2 times 4 is 8, plus the 3 extra quarters. It gives me 11/4. So that's why we do 4 times 2 plus 3. So the way you do it, you do 4 times 2, and then you add the 3 extra. But this is why it works, the way that I've shaded it for you. Shows you why it works. Because I've got 4/4 here, 4/4 there, and 3/4 there. So I've got 11/4. Does this make sense? Now, this is the opposite. Whenever you see a fraction line, it means to divide. So this really means 15 divided by 2. How many 2's go into 15? So we know we've got 7, remainder 1, and we've got basically it's 7.5. So 2 goes into 15 7 times, and there's 1 remainder out of 2. Okay? Now, this one here, round 4.1394 to the nearest tenth. You need to identify the tenths column, and the tenths is the first digit after the decimal point. So I've got 4 point, and I'm allowed 1 more digit. Is it going to be a 1 or something else?
1.
It's going to be 1 because this 3 is less than 5. Now, rounding to 2 decimal places. So I've got 4.1394. I'm allowed to do 4 point, I only want 2 digits. 4.1, I have to decide on this. The second decimal place is the 3. Now, does it stay a 3 or does it change? It changes, so the 1 stays the same. The 3 gets rounded up to a 4 because I'm really looking at the 9. Highlighter. I'm looking at the 9 after the, so my second decimal place is the 3. But I look at the 9, which is the third decimal place, which is after the 3. Does this second decimal place stay the same? I need to look at the 9. This 9 is 5 or more, so the 3 gets rounded up to a 4. So it's 4.14. You do not include extra digits, extra zeros on the end of decimals, okay? Now, fill in this table. Girls, all this decimals work is all about you knowing place value. This is the tenths column, and that's the hundredths column. So my decimal ends in the hundredths column, so I write it as 48 over 100. 48 hundredths. I know it's really 4 tenths and 8 hundredths, but the 4 tenths makes 40 hundredths if I was to simplify it. But all you've got to do is look at your decimal, tenths place, hundredths place. This decimal goes to the hundredths, so I've got 48 hundredths. Now, I need to simplify that. Is it even? Are they both even? If they're both even, you divide by 2. So you get 24 over 50. Are they both even, 24 and 50? Yes, they are. So you divide them both by 2 again, and you get 12 over 25. Now, I could have divided by something else. I could have divided them both by 4 in the first place and jumped and done it in one step. But girls, it doesn't matter how many steps you take when simplifying fractions. Okay? So if you want to divide something in half and divide it in half again, you've ended up dividing it by 4. It's like a pizza. Cut it in half again. You've actually divided by 4. So if I give you a difficult number to divide by 4, you halve it and halve it again. Girls, the fraction 3/4, you should know what a quarter is, a half, and 3/4. Does anyone want to tell me what a half is as a decimal? A half. 0.5, great. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go 0, 1. You're telling me that this is 0.5. Do you know what a quarter is, girls, as a decimal? So 0.25. And do you know what 3/4 is? 0.75. So this is how you do this one. 3/4 is 0.75. There is another way to do it, but look, you could go, if you want, you should just know this one off by heart. You need to know your half is 0.5, and you need to know that a quarter is 0.25. Because you can think of a quarter of a dollar is 25 cents. Okay? See, a dollar is good because a dollar is 100 cents. A quarter of a dollar is 25 cents. So it's 0.25 is a quarter. 0.5 is a half, and 0.75 is 3/4. I could make equivalent fractions, but I think that's more difficult. All right, simplify 15 over 20. What can you divide both those by? 5. And you get 3/4. Sorry. So they're both divisible by 5. You get 3/4. Question 12. Write the following as recurring decimals using correct notation. 0.3, only the 3 repeats. And this one, the 34 does not repeat, right? What's repeating here? The
3, 2,
7.
Oh, yeah, it is. It's 721, 721, 721. So, girls, it's the 721 that repeats. So, it's 34.3, and it's the 721 that repeats. Now, where do I put the dots?
7.
Only on the first and the last one that repeats. You don't put it on all 3.
34.
I know. Thank you. Thank you. Very observant, girls. Very good. So 34.3, and it's the 721 that repeats. So see 721, 721, 721 that repeats. Okay, so please do not put the dots on the 7, the 2, and the 1. Okay, place each of these on the number line. Okay, we've got to see what this number line goes up by. So I'm going to start from 0 and I'm going to jump. 1, 2, 3, 4. So from 0 to 1, whenever you're trying to work out the scale, of the line, we find 0 and find 1, or you would find 2 and 3, 2 numbers next to each other, and see how many jumps there are from the first number to the second one. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. What do we go up by? Quarters. 4 jumps means quarters. We're going up by quarters. Okay, let's go. Let's do which one's easiest? I'm not going to do that one first. Let's do 3/4, doing this one. So 1, 2, that's 3/4 there. What about 2.5? Where does 2.5 go?
In the middle of 2.
Exactly between 2 and 3. 2.5 is exactly halfway between 2 and 3. It's really 2 2/4, but it's exactly halfway between. And -1 1/4. So I've got -1. Do I keep going back? Does it go here or there?
Goes.
Yeah, I've got -1 1/4. It's this one. So girls, please mark them carefully. Okay. Question 14, how many thirds are in 2 wholes? It's easiest to draw the 2 wholes and break them up into thirds. So how many thirds? 6. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Obviously, if they ask how many thirds in 10 holes, you don't draw the 10 holes. You just start drawing a couple of them, and then you'll know that there's 3 thirds here and 3 thirds there, etc. All right. Now, write a decimal between 3.30 and 3.310. The best thing to do is write out your 2 numbers and add on a 0 at the end of each of those numbers. So you could almost, and then underline the bits after the decimal point. You're not supposed to say 3.300. That's incorrect. But for this particular question, it's sort of easier to think of it like that. So 3.300, 3.310. I need a number between 300 and 310. Give me any number. No. But 3.310 is the same as 3.31. I need another number. We'll just look at it as 300 and 310. Yes, 3.301, 3.302, etc. Some people have put 3.305. What's the last number I could put? 3.309. Yeah, 3.309. So anything from 3.301 to 3.309. So when you go ... it means that there are numbers in between, 3.303, 3.304. If I asked for the decimal halfway between, it's 3.305. Okay? And you could go 06, 07, 08, 09. All right, arranging these, question 16, arranging in ascending order. Now, girls, these are all every day. No, they're not. Girls, there are certain fractions that you need to know off by heart. Equivalent, everyday fractions, how to convert them from fractions to decimals. Now, 1/3 is one of them. So, does anyone know the decimal for a third? No, yeah, it's 0.3 something. 0.3 recurring, which is 0.333, etc. What about fifths? How many fingers on your hand? One hand. 5. 1/5, 2/5, 3/5, 4/5, 5/5. Does anyone know what 1/5? Tell me what 1/5 is as a decimal. All right, let's say you don't know. If you don't know, it's not 0.5. Girls, what I'm going to do, can you write me the equivalent fraction for 1/5?
0.1.
Can you write me the equivalent fraction for 1/5? I want it out of 10. Why did I?
2/10.
Good. Now, what's 2/10 as a decimal? 0.2. It's 2 in the 2/10 is 2 in the tenths column. Now, 1/5 is 0.2. I'm going to do 2/5 now. Girls, if you know what 1/5 is, 2/5 is double that. What's double 0.2? All right, let's see if that works. 2/5. The reason I want to make it, if you're trying to change a fraction into a decimal, it's easy to get it into tenths or hundredths. So 5 times 2 is 10. 2 times 2 is 4. But girls, the only one you need to know is 1/5. If you just know how to do 1/5, which is 2/10 is 0.2, let's count up by 0.2s. 0.2, 0.4, 0.6, 0.8, and 1. So 1/5 is 0.2. 2/5 is 0.4. What's 3/5? 0.6. 4/5. 0.8. Like, I could work them all out, but once you know what 1/5 is, that it's 0.2, you should know then what 2/5 is, 3/5. Just think, I've got 2/5 shaded. Every 1/5 is 0.2. The next 1/5 is 0.2. See what I'm doing? The next 1/5 is 0.2. So 3/5 is 0.6. 4/5 is 0.8. 5/5, 1 whole, is 1. So this is 0.4. Now, what's the smallest? And this is 0.34. Okay, look at those three. The smallest is 1/3, isn't it? So 0.33 is smaller than, so that's my smallest. What's the next smallest?
0.4.
No. 0.34 is next. And 0.4, because just look at the digit after the decimal point. These two have 3s. They're the smallest. But then look at the next digit. That's a 3, that's a 4. So this is smaller. And then 0.4 means 0.40. If you have to add a 0 on the end, you're allowed to add zeros on the end of decimals. So this is the third biggest. So when I ask you to write them in ascending order, 1/3 is the smallest, then 0.34, and then 2/5 is the largest. So that's the order. Now express each of the following as a simplified fraction. 4 of $32. That's $4 out of 32. Yeah, what else could you divide them both by?
Or it actually could be 1 as well.
You could divide by 4 if you want, or 2. But if you did divide by 2, you'd have to divide by 2 again. It's 1/8. And 15 minutes of an hour.
This is 1/4.
Yeah, so 1 hour is 60 minutes. It's 15 minutes out of 60 minutes. The units are the same, so I can simplify the fraction. Girls, you should know 15 minutes of an hour is 1/4 of an hour, or what I'm doing here is dividing both of these by 15, which is 1/4. And write 7/8 as a decimal. That means 7 divided by 8. A fraction line means divided by. Girls, you should look at it 7/8. Please don't give me a whole number answer or something bigger than 1. We've got 7/8. That's less than 1. Your answer needs to be 0 point something. So if you get 1 point something, you've done something wrong. See, 7/8. What you've got to do in maths, girls, don't just learn the rules. Just try and think common sense. So this 7/8 is less than, it's less than 1 whole. I do not want an answer bigger than 1. So don't put, so we want to see how many times 8 goes into 7. So please don't do 7 into 8 because your answer will be 1 point something. So 7 over 8, the fraction line means divide. So it's 7 divided by 8. Now, if you're confused which way you would write it, if I gave you, I don't know, 150 divided by 3, would you put the 150 here at the front or under there? Yeah, so, and you'd put the 3 up the front. Do you know what I mean? So you've got to do it the same. Whatever you're dividing by goes out the front here of your division symbol thing, whatever. Okay? So, I'm going to keep going. Now, when dividing decimals, you must put the decimal point above where you see it as you're working along. So you go 8 into 7 and you go 0.000, just add a few. Does 8 go into 7? No. You put a 0 and because it doesn't go in there, you've got to carry that 7. And the point, I'm now up to the decimal point here. I have to put it up there. Does 8 go into 70?
Yes.
How many times? 8 8s are 64. How many remainder? 6. Does 8 go into 60? Yes. 8 7s are 56. Remainder? And I'm going to zoom in so you can see it. Right. Does 8 go into 40?
Yeah, 4 times 32.
5 times. 8 5s are 40. So it's 0.875. Okay? So notice my answer is not bigger than 1. It's close to 1 because 7/8 is almost 1. All right? I don't want to see 1 point something. 1.1 something. Don't divide it the wrong way around.